anymore. That's good.
Nah, he's too cool for them.
Thank God. I think that was possibly the worst idea I've ever heard in my life. Giving Ragnaros legs? What were they thinking? I recall this fantastically photoshopped image of him sitting there with a sad face, sitting on a park bench, Keanu Reeves style. It was pretty terrible. Oh God.
This
Why
trash,
would you
by
do
the
that?
way, this trash is like the hardest trash in game. It looks like it's gonna be Paragon, like world first, without anyone dying. There was some, yeah, you get the fire under you, and then you get thrown up straight into the lava. And it has been very, very difficult in the past. Also, quite easy to see Spot who's actually AFK because, you know.
Yeah, it's always nice to have some AFK check trash. Molten Core was about 15 people AFK set on follow every now and again. You can hardly really blame them for it. It's like, why is the DPS on this AoE trash so like, oh yeah, all the mages are AFK.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't really blame them for that.
Some of the changes have been done to the comp. Xenafix is being put in. Shaman's been put out.
No shamans for you.
Mages. I'm sorry for the mage lovers, but I think we're only going to be seeing one.
Wow, really?
Yes.
Why is that on this fight? Why is there any particular reason?
They're not so great. You need massive amount of AoE damage, and for the single target even, they're not the best choice.
Yeah.
So, as of melee, we only seen DPS warriors and DKs and a single rogue.
Interesting.
Goblin engineering rogue.
That's very specific.
For a reason.
And what? Goblin engineering rogue, the reason being?
In the last phase, once Ragnaros actually, you know, jumps off the lava and starts being real, you get these three helpers who then spawn, they spawn this frost deluge thing, and three people need to pick it up and then sort of sweep the area from the dread flame that the boss is putting down.
Yeah.
And Goblin Engineer Rogue is very good for this sweeping.
Yeah.
Double rocket boots, sprint, and rocket jump. All basically very good tools. We did level engineering for all of our sweepers just for this fight. We're using 2 druids to do it, 2 boomkins, and a rogue.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's the single reason why the rogue is here.
Yeah. Now, the big deal about this fight is that Phase 4 is entirely heroic only, and that's the big...
Yes.
It's the big RP thing, it's the big culmination of the entire storyline, and, of course, those helpers you were talking about are none other than Cenarius, Hamel, Rune Totem, and, as I recall, Malfurion,
Yes.
Stormrage.
Yes.
So, fairly major lore characters involved in this particular fight, which is really the only way that you can, as far as I'm concerned, properly wrap up the storyline when you've got such a iconic boss as Ragnaros. Everyone remembers Rag from back in the day.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think they've done justice to him with this particular fight?
It was difficult enough, at least, I would say. I mean, he wasn't exactly just a rollover.
Yeah.
Once we were starting to get to the 4th phase, no one really knew much about it, so we didn't know if he's going to die on 10% or 20%, or if suddenly the NPCs are going to come in and just start shooting lasers at him, or...
Yeah, you never know. It's weird, isn't it? Where you've got this... isn't it a heroic Cho'Gall?
Yeah.
He is actually dead on 1%,
like
isn't
3%-ish.
Yeah, because he
starts running towards the middle and then he drops off the
you
floor.
don't even have to do anything to him at that point. Yeah.
Nope.
And it's kind of cool that you see these things that are unexpected, I suppose, in terms of scripting. And Blizzard has got a lot better at scripting events into fights.
Yeah.
So these guys are taking quite a while to prepare, needless to say, because this is really hard.
Trying to pull in the kill setup. Let's see what we actually are missing from the first kill setup. We seem to be having an arcane mage instead of me playing a DPS warrior. We seem to be having another arcane mage as well, instead of one of our hunters. for the rest of it is pretty much the same. 3 healers only, and 1 Resto Druid, 1 Holy Pala, 1 Holy Priest, and I think people are starting to get ready, using an alt Death Knight to fill in instead of a rogue.
Yeah.
And all seems to be lined up right now.
Yep. Instead of looking fairly solid. So it's going to take a while for us to, I think, walk through this fight simply because of the number of abilities.
Yes.
We'll try and round out and talk a little bit about Phase 1 and the kind of things you're going to be expecting to see, because this is a very visual fight. A lot of fire going on in the place, and for a lot of people it's difficult to distinguish one fire from another.
Definitely. Basically, at the stage 1, first phase, we have Sulphurous Smash. I mean, big hammer on the ground type ability.
Yeah.
Basically, don't get hit by this, and once the Sulphurous Smash has been done, it leaves Scorched Ground.
Yeah.
Where if you stand, you're gonna be taking quite a huge amount of damage.
Yep.
So not a good place to do. Then from the smash, it's impacting several lava waves.
Yeah, and they actually split out in different directions.
Yeah. 3 different directions, sort of like a triangle-ish directions, and people need to avoid this. If you get hit by one, you don't get instant gibbed, but not a good thing to do, really.
Not exactly. You don't want to be taking damage from anything.
Exactly, and you get a debuff on you, which can be dispelled.
Okay.
But looking at the raid composition, I'm not sure if our Holy Paladin even has a dispel. Our Resto Druid definitely does not have one. So it leaves one person in the whole raid who can dispel it.
So without question, you want to be avoiding getting those debuffs, because that's going to be extreme strain on that one person.
Exactly. And then we do have Wrath of Ragnaros, which is basically a ranged random damage ability.
Yeah, it's not knockback as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not random at all. It's on a timer. But basically, I'll tell a bit more about Wrath once I get into the magma trap. Ragnaros forms these magma traps at players' locations, and a person needs to go into the magma trap to trigger it and then get out of it as fast as possible. So we're using a warlock to run in and then teleport off instantly to its position. At this point, if you get hit by a magma trap and Wrath at the same time, you're pretty much dead on heroic difficulty. So the traps are being timed off sync with the Wrath. And at the same time, melee is taking Hand of Ragnaros, which is the melee Wrath of Ragnaros.
Yeah.
Doing a knockback and taking some damage. Then on heroic difficulty from Magma Trap, you get a debuff on you, like weakened Magma Trap or something like that, and that basically increases the damage to taken from Magma Trap so much that if you take 2 in a row, you're dead.
Not very pleasant.
When in normal mode, you can just pretty much keep chugging them as they spawn. Here, you need to wait for the Magma Trap timer to wear off and then take it. So we're going to be taking traps not only in the first phase, but also in the second phase, because of how, I mean, we're going to have traps down, we just can't take them all.
Yeah, of course.
And we can't really wait in the first phase because it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and those of you who have done the Molten Core will perhaps be aware of the so-called intermission phase. Yep, Submerge at around 70% health, if I recall correctly. Yep. Sons of Flame will come out. It's not quite the same as the previous version.
No, they actually... Ragnaros throws his hammer to the ground, making the splitting blow.
Yep.
And the minions of fire spawn. Now, these sons are fixating straight into the hammer and go the straightest way possible.
Okay.
What's different from normal mode is that on normal mode, the sons always spawn in the same positions.
Okay.
Whereas on heroic mode, they can all, for example, spawn on top of each other, clumped up, easy to be AoE'd. but there can also be some really nasty combinations.
Awkward positions of them
Exactly.
not being... Yeah, that's... That,
and you actually really need to do damage to them here on heroic mode so that they die.
yeah. And of course, if you don't do damage to them, they actually get to the hammer, they create a supernova, which massive amounts of AoE
Yeah,
damage.
it's a wipe
Instant,
if
yeah.
it goes through. And so basically, what's good for these sons, for those people who are actually working on this and want to get something out of it, Boomkins. Once again, AoE knockback works on the sons.
Yeah.
DKs, Death Grip, works on the sons.
That seems like an absolutely
Stuns.
crucially good ability to you. So I assume you're going to want your Death Knight sort of round the edge to pull them back.
Yes, exactly. They are pulling the ones from the, like...
The ones that are getting closest, maybe.
No, the ones which are sort of the furthest away from the group of the mobs, to pull
okay.
them into the group so they can be
Smart.
quickly AoE'd and
AoE'd,
dealt with.
yeah.
Then there is stuns, obviously, which work. All of our warlocks are demonology spec, all of them have a stun.
Okay.
All of the paladins have a stun, all of the druids have a stun, rogues have a stun, warriors have a stun.
That's a lot of stuns.
The only people which don't are arcane mages. They have very powerful cooldowns though.
That's very, very true.
But yeah, especially the, how to say, the first intermission at 70% is fairly simple, but there's one further ahead as well, which is more difficult due to the fact that it also spawns these two big lava scions, which need to be dealt with. But I'll tell more about when we actually get there.
Yep. Well, it looks like they're getting set up to try and start this fight.
Yep.
Needless to say, the preparation on a fight of this intensity is absolutely absurd. And
Yep.
the first question I suppose I ask, is this the hardest boss that you've ever done?
It's a difficult question, but I would say yes.
Okay, and on what basis?
Well, the time consumed by anything else than this and Lich King can't even compare. So it's pretty much only these two bosses which are even anywhere near each other. Lich King wasn't as difficult because it was limited attempt. If this was limited attempt stuff, I don't think it would have been down this fast.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't have killed it yet. That makes perfect sense.
And then again, if Lich King was not limited attempt, I think it would have downed faster.
Yeah. That's interesting. What's your opinion on gating that way, incidentally?
I think last time I told you that I wouldn't really be enjoying this kind of brute force stuff.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
How they made it
changed.
Yeah, how they made it right now. But it took quite a little time this time. So if it takes this little time, it's no problem. But if it takes a month, for example, it could have been. I mean, the next guild after us took them loads longer already.
Yeah.
So if we would have been a bit worse, it could have been, yeah, the stuff that I wouldn't have liked, like many hours on heroic Ragnaros.
Yeah, well, it grinds down your enthusiasm for the game, doesn't it? If you keep just hitting your head against the wall over and over again, and there we go, there's the engagement, the fight has begun, and all I can say is, I suppose, thank God you can actually be a fire mage in this fight. Oh God, I had to respect to Frost, it was horrible.
Yeah. Except everyone's just arcane now.
Yeah, pretty much, which is honestly not very interesting. Unless you like big numbers. I believe this is what you said in the last time, actually. It's like, I said, well, isn't that really, really boring for you? It's like, no, I really like big numbers. So
well, that's what it is.
More to the point, you were actually playing while DPSing Heroic Nefarian, just
look
hitting
at the meter right now.
Oh, look, that looks like an arcane mage. And another one getting up there.
It doesn't stay that long, though, but at the start of the fight, it's pretty nice. When you have all of your procs and everything lined up, you're going to be doing great. This is actually insanely long fight. I mean, Berserk timer is 17 minutes, and some of it has already been gone. Boss is on 86%, so there's quite some on this fight to do.
Yeah, how long on average do you think this fight actually takes?
I would say about 16 minutes.
That's actually quite a long one. I mean, that is
It's
very,
insane,
very intense.
man. I mean, let's say you wipe on the 16-minute mark.
And then you're right back to the start again.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of bosses that took that long back in the day. I suppose Cthulhu was quite similar.
Don't know if it was this long, actually.
I don't think it was quite that long. You're right, but it was easily over the 10-minute mark, especially when people first started doing it and actually getting the first real attempts on it and getting the actual kills once they fixed the bloody thing.
Here you can see we have that was a knockback straight into a trap, I would say. So
ouch.
I don't know on who it was, but
well, could have been worse. Could have been at the 16-minute mark, as you said. But
I think it was
hurt.
Geru.
Yeah, you reckon? What's giving you that impression?
Because of what's been said in the chat. One of the hunters of the guild.
Oh dear.
Seems like it was not the first time that he did something worth mentioning during this raid.
Oh dear. Well, that's a reasonable start.
Well, he was told to move his position, and he did, but straight into a fire.
That's not a very good idea, isn't it? You gotta look where you're going.
Well, yeah. If I was more mean, I would say it's a good idea to turn your monitor on. I mean, you know.
Yeah. Well,
but
you're not a mean person.
No.
Everyone knows you. Very, very pleasant.
No, I just, I'd never say that anyone would play bad or anything like that.
Yes. Everything is giggling behind their monitors, including the guy over there, who knows you are lying out of your ass. We know how raid leaders get.
And yeah, this Paul. Now it's like it's massive chatter going on.
And indeed, why not?
Seeing like, well, there are some people who have managed a hat trick on this boss. Baltower, mage officer, would maybe be the most famous of this. Hat trick mean managing to die 3 times on the same pull.
Wait, what?
Yes. How does this happen? First get hit by a lava wave, then get hit by something else, then die into an engulfing magic later on, and that's 3 times already. It's quite easy, actually.
Good lord. I
would say he's not the only person. To his defense, he's not the only person. And this happened after a short while when he was not actually with us on the fight from the start, and then he came in and he was like, guys, this fight is really easy. How can you even fail here? And then a hat trick shortly after.
Well, that would be why. Don't say that again. No.
Exactly.
Bad idea. So that was just a simple execution mistake, but
definitely.
That wipes the raid. Simple as that. That is the level that it's at.
That's why this took so many pulls. I mean, just a single mistake, even on a 25-man, it's over.
Pop. Yep.
It's over. So,
it's an impressively scary fight, very intimidating. To the point where the hunter refuses to even look at Ragnaros.
This is a good fight for Hunter, though. Hunters always whine that deterrents don't work on anything. On this fight, it works on nearly everything, actually.
Yeah.
Even works on the lava wave, I think, so you can just stand in the lava wave and just get hit with deterrents up.
Yeah, there is, needless to say, a reason why you do not have this camera view while fighting. Yeah. Because you can't see anything. So, there you go. You can see Ragnaros, and now he's going to have to look at the floor again. That's simply going to have to happen.
Yeah, looks like the pull timer is going. 5 seconds into the action.
There we go.
There is misdirections being done, tricks are being done, and cooldowns being popped.
Make it abundantly clear that you will not be leaving this place alive.
Hopefully not.
I don't think he's really going anywhere anyway, to be honest.
Nope.
He seems to be kind of a sedentary individual, just sort of hangs around the same place. So, aside from these big knockbacks, is there anything else you really have to be extremely careful of in this fight? Anything that commonly causes real problems?
Not in the first phase. I mean, first phase is fairly simple if you don't do stupid mistakes like the previous one, I would say. There are some things that can happen further on in the fight. Like getting into the sort of stage 2, where you get molten seeds. That is a very delicate ability of the fight.
Yeah. No.
We deal with it different to some of the guilds, but since we released a movie, I think many people have been starting to deal with it how we did.
Yeah.
We stack in the middle, everyone exactly on the same spot, and when timer says move, everyone moves at the same time. Okay. So the seeds spawn to that exact location, all of them.
But you get out of there immediately,
yes.
so
no one gets hit by the initial fire AoE.
Yeah, and of course that's the most efficient way of doing it,
yes.
if you know your guild is on the ball and is capable of that execution.
And has the AoE required, because that's why we have a lot of boomkins, a lot of
because
DKs,
you've got to smash them
hunters.
down before they do anything else.
Yeah, we need to kill them before they reach the raid, because they get a stacking damage buff on top of each other, the elementals, and they will do bad. It's not looking good for you then.
Yep. We're actually approaching 70%, so we're going to get a little bit of submersion shortly by the looks of it.
Yep, and with 3 traps up, that leaves a little bit of extra tension to the next phases. I think 1 trap will be taken before that, seeing as we don't really have any of the... yeah, that was the trap right there, and that was the last trap before the split and blow, because it's happening right now. As you can see, the elementals are not spawning from the same positions as they are on normal mode. Like, on normal mode, they're exactly every time on the same spot, sort of in a circle around Ragnaros. Here, a death grip was used right from in front of the Ragnaros to pick in the furthest sun right in to be slowed fast. And
do you feel that that's a bit too much RNG, or do you feel it actually adds a nice challenging element to the fight?
If we wouldn't have any DKs, I think it would suck quite a lot, but we do have, and everyone does have, I think it's fair enough.
Well, yeah, I don't really know of all that many guilds that are short on Death Knights.
Yeah.
Okay, there's submersion dealt with, nice and easy.
Yep. Now looking at the molten seed timer, it's 3 seconds on the when the thing hits 0. Now everyone's running. You need to run right now. If not running, you're dead. Is anyone dead? No, no one failed on that.
Nicely executed there.
And now people are stacked up here, and the seeds are going to be exploding. They exploded, and now the massive AoE is being shot right in there.
Good lord, that's even slowing the frame rate. That's huge.
Yeah, all of the stuff needs to die before it hits it. Now it's the phase 2 ability, Engulfing Flames, on heroic mode called World of Flames, because it happens 3 times in a row. If you stand in this particular fire, you're dead. And this is the thing that some people call RNG. That's what I thought was very stupid, because it has nothing to do with RNG. And if you stand in it, it's 100% your fault.
There you go.
It. And
they're just throwing down the truth right here.
And that, I mean, that's just how it is. Some people are claiming on the forums that, you know, it's just an RNG fight. With
people are making claims on the forums? No. That never happened. What are you talking about?
And, well, now it's seeds again. Seed hits 0. Everyone needs to be moving right now. Some cooldown is being used here. I do believe we're going to be seeing Paladin cooldown and a last stand from Warrior as well. Lot of AoE again.
Huge amounts of DPS going
Hammer spawning right behind the raid.
Oh, that's a bit unpleasant.
So, need to be careful where you step in. If you step too far behind, you're going to be stepping into the lava, and if, you know, it's
got fire, let's be honest.
That's Balta dead, our hat-trick guy.
Again? Well, never mind.
But he's going to be combat dress, so we will see if the hat-tricks continue.
We shall see, yes, that will be the first.
A trap is being taken. He should be accepting the rest shortly. To get in, you can see Molten Sea timer again. It's in 7 seconds. When it hits 0, you're supposed to move. If not, you're dead.
Yep. Toasty.
Right, Truff is moving at least. Everyone else is moving as well.
Yeah, it seems like you got those Molten Seas nailed down incredibly well.
Yeah. That's...
This is just the optimal way to do it.
Yeah, and this is getting better, like, by the gear that you're getting weekly. Like, all of this is just simply getting a lot easier.
Yeah, the AoE just crashing down through that. Less and less chance of it actually reaching the right.
Yeah. Engulfing Flames again. Need to watch so that you don't go too close. Balta disconnected, actually. That's why he dies.
Well, that's a reasonable excuse, I suppose.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I can give him that. It's getting close to the 40% mark for the second.
Yeah, the
second sun
intermission,
phase.
yes, as they call it. Denizens of Flame.
Yep, right now, people are nuking everything you get off the boss at this point is off from the second phase, from the next phase.
Yeah, it's always good.
And that's obviously good because this boss is all about the next phase. Once we get there, I will explain why. Now it's a bit of looking at lava scions have been picked up. When lava scions spawn, they put this blazing heat debuff on people. If these people spawn the fire on next to the Sons of Flame, and the Sons or the Scions move into the flame, they get healed loads. Right. So you need to try and put the flame back somewhere. So
yeah,
it doesn't
be incredibly
really
careful with the positioning right there.
Yeah. Now we are only having one Sun left. We usually try to keep it for as long as the intermission timer is up. Now it was killed. Now we pop in Bloodlust and pots and all sorts of cooldowns, and this is the burn.
Yep.
Now,
phase 3 right now.
This is the most important part of the fight. During this phase, there spawns meteors. These meteors carry on to the last phase. If you don't get there with 2 meteors, you are basically going to be having a huge struggle there.
Right, so that's if you get more than 2 meteors.
Yeah, if you get more than 2, so after 2 it's going to be 4.
Ah, oh, it's multiplicative,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, so you get 2, you get 1 at first. First one just spawned right now, and we still seem to be quite good on the timer. Everything seems to be going good. Need to be getting it to 10% before the 4th meteor is spawning, so the 3rd sort of. And right now the DPS is looking quite good. Do we see meteor? There's a meteor timer. Next meteor is in 21 seconds. That's the last one that we can get spawning. With -1 person, the DPS is going to be very tight, I would say.
Yep.
Very, very tight. We have never killed this boss with 4 meteors, so I don't really know how it's going to work. Second meteor spawning right now there. These meteors are fixating to people, and then once you do a damage ability to them, it knocks them off you and switches to a second target.
And just to make it even worse, in the meantime, you're dodging all of these flames that are coming from the floor as well.
Exactly,
so.
Which is RNG, of course.
Yes, of course. You can't see them coming by anything, needless to say.
And Sulfurous Smash as well, man.
Yeah.
Need to look for the waves at the same time.
Yep.
There's 15 seconds in the meteor timer and 5% to take off. I would say it's not happening.
That's going to make things a little bit tricky. That simply comes down to that one disconnect. That's how close it is.
Yeah. I think he's back now, but not being rested yet. Nope, meteors are up. Did not make it.
Fun times.
But, yeah, we're wiping it. They're wiping it.
Yeah, it's just not possible to do with that many. And very, very close to phase 4 there, but this is the kind of thing that's going to get easier as gear goes up for obvious reasons.
Definitely.
Because you'll be able to DPS this down much faster.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this with the 1 person not disconnecting would have been no problem. It was only 2% off. Yeah. That one person would have made the 2%.
Well, that's very, very unfortunate.
Kruff managing to feign death and going to be arresting people. So we're going to be saving from the corpse run. A little bit of spell book from there for a mass resurrection.
It is a wonderful ability.
Yeah, now it's slash camp. We'll see how many people fail at that, getting the debuff on them. Not so many, none actually.
It's always nice.
So next time if we wipe quick, for example a trap wipe in the first phase, everyone can be rested quick again.
Yep.
Which is actually very amazing.
Yep. Aside from that, I mean the execution seemed to be absolutely perfect.
A couple of pulls have been done on this boss, I would say.
A couple of pulls. Bit of practice.
Yes.
Always good.
Yes. I think the damage meter is bugged, if I'm totally honest. Looking at how much more damage Rex has done compared to anyone else.
Possibility.
There is actually some thing now with the Firelands. Damage meters are bugging, making some players deal even double damage on the meter.
Yeah.
But don't know if it was the case this time. We did see Rex top the Balrog, so
Certainly a possibility. Well, while we're waiting for this prep, I suppose, since we're going to be going through phases we've now pretty much fully explained, we might as well go on to some different topics, I think. It was recently announced that WoW's actually lost another 300,000 subs.
Really?
Which, yep. Well, that was in an earnings call, I believe, last week, which would mean that takes the total loss to about 1 million in the last 6 months. So, you're going to have a really, I wouldn't say unusual perspective, but unique perspective on what you think the Blizzard actually needs to do, if anything, to deal with that problem. So I suppose the question would be, what is that?
That's a tricky question. That's a question that has been asked quite many times, but there's not really a right answer, I don't think. I suppose they should start, like, giving us content more often.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's really going to disagree with the idea of having more to do.
I mean, how it is right now is what people mostly do is if they only raid, they simply just log into raids, do the raid, log off, log back in next week. I mean, we have loads of people who have Flask left from the last raid when they log on.
We used to do that an awful lot.
So that just says how much people are actually doing in WoW apart from raiding. Of course, there are some people who are playing arenas or doing some of the PvP, but even that's getting just worse and worse all the time. So
yeah, I've heard the PvPers are actually struggling quite a bit with some problems with the system and things like that. I personally, I just didn't bother. The last time I did PvP, I think, was in vanilla, and that was when you had to actually work for Grandmaster and things like that. But it's a case of there just not being enough to do. And I don't know. Do you think that perhaps Blizzard actually overemphasized the idea of dailies to the point where they think that dailies is the best way of keeping people playing? Yeah.
That's what I say, ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I have 7 characters, for example. I'm not going to start doing dailies on all of them. It's just stupid.
No. Do you want to do the same thing over and over again, day in, day out, when it's not actually challenging to begin with?
Yeah, and also when it's not really something you need to do.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you get out of it? A pet. Oh my god. A pet.
You're not exactly the pet type, are you?
I don't know.
No, maybe if it added to DPS, you'd be impressed, but...
Well, if I would get, like, a pet which would give me plus 500 DPS, I would be there day and night, man.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised by that. You know. Respecting your professions, re-rolling your character at a different race, anything that's required.
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't really agree with the current system of dailies at the moment. I think that more content has to be put into the game that is player interactive in such a way that you have to interact with other people and not necessarily be competitive, but be there in such a way that you're not just going up against a brain-dead AI all the time that can't actually beat you unless you're asleep at the keyboard.
Yeah.
Play with others. It's what an MMO's for. Why would you not encourage that kind of behavior?
Yeah, it's also the instances like 5-mans and stuff like that, they're getting quite boring. Also, one thing that I don't like is, back in the days when you used to have good gear, you could just go into an instant, like a heroic 5-man, have a DPS warrior just tank through it. You know, just... Now, you actually need to have a tank, or you're going to be in trouble.
That's a really interesting point of view.
And that just makes it slow. I mean, I don't mind doing some heroics, as long as it doesn't take half an hour. If I can rush through it in 7 minutes with the people who actually know how to play, no problem. But if it takes the same time as before it took for the whole week to do it, well, now that is stupid, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a case of the fact that people, they don't really want to be in heroics anymore because they've done it so much, and as we saw from the audience earlier, nobody really wants to be in Solomon and Soldier Rob anymore. But it's about repetition, and we like doing dungeons. We like doing raids. That's the reason you do what you do. It's the reason, no doubt, that everyone in this room does what they do, because they like that content. They don't like it when you keep doing it and nothing changes. Nothing gets switched up, nothing gets remixed.
They implemented the heroic dungeon system where if you sign in as a tank or a healer, you can get this.
Oh yeah, you get bags of goodies.
Bags of goodies. How did that work out? Well, it didn't work out so well. But still, if you don't queue as a tank, it takes ages to get a group, and then you get a group full of people who, let's just say mildly, are not so great at this game. And
I think we've all experienced that, and I don't think it's an unfair thing to say.
No, it's really not. I mean, people are just on a different level. This is how it is. And one thing that was pretty nice that they did add, though, was when you queue in on a random, you do get this stacking damage and healing and HP buff.
Yeah, it's supposed to compensate for the fact that one of your people might not actually have any hands, so it's just rolling their face across the keyboard.
Yeah, or for example, is a tank with not actually having a shield or any kind of equipment.
You don't need a shield, it's fine. Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah, that is unpleasant, and I think the whole system and the way that it's worked out has really been this bizarre paradox. Like, for instance, they know the best way for people to run the content and to actually have fun with their friends and do it really, really well and actually aspire to be better than they currently are is with a group, a fixed group, usually from a guild.
Definitely.
And then they reward people that don't do that because they want people to queue random. I mean, you can't get those rewards, for instance, if you queue as a full group.
They want people who have like just joined into the game get boosted by someone who is actually good and wants to get his in-game pets from the instance from this goodie bag. So they want to get
It is a really cynical way, I think, of encouraging people to help out others. It would be nice if there was just a better way to do that.
Yeah, though I don't know if there ever will be when you can't really properly reward people by giving them, because if you give them something like which will, for example, enhance your gameplay or anything like that, then everyone is going to be doing it because they have to. So
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to have everyone, even for a couple of weeks, try and help out a bunch of newbies, because even then that raises the skill of the player base.
Well, probably alright.
That said, of course, what happens when bad advice is given? How does the game successfully quantify that you have been a good coach or whatever? How have you do you know you might have taught them bad habits? Who knows?
Well, yeah, that is totally true. I mean, when I go into an instance as a tank, I don't give healers mana breaks. I mean, what is that about? Mana breaks is like
I don't need
so
mana
molten core, and then the random healer's like, "Hey, I need mana. Where's the mana break?" I mean, maybe this is a bad habit now. Then there's some random DPS rolls.
You're a slave driver. That's what you are. You're just cracking the whip. Get on, gun.
Exactly, man. But that's how it should be in heroics. I mean, they're easy, and you don't need a lot of gear to do them. Obviously, if I see a healer is 0 mana and I'm gonna die on the next pull because I don't get any heals, I'm not gonna pull. But
well, what you do is you pull, wipe, and then blame the healer, and then you feel better about yourself.
Nah, not so mean, man. Not so mean.
Okay, so we're looking to get through the second intermission. Yep. Ice cream is not served this intermission. And then we're going into the big burn phase, and this is where you do have a full raid this time, so you're looking to break through it without the meteors coming down, and then we'll get to see phase 4, which is where things start to get real.
Hopefully we are going to see some of it. Right now it's Bloodlust is being called. 3, 2, 1, where is it? There it is. And Lava Science don't have a lot of HP left. Kroof is not even interested if they're up or not, just tunneling the target right here.
Of course.
We have a couple of demon forms there right in front of the boss with their immolation aura and their demons popped, trying to tear down the boss
as quickly as possible. Yeah, but you do not want 4 meteors. That would not be good.
Nope. Looks like right now everyone's still trying to play it safe and no one has actually died.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's probably the worst thing, isn't it? Trying to eke out a little bit extra DPS, but then dying. You're not going to do a lot of DPS if you're dead. So that's something to consider.
That is true. Though, I must say that when we were actually doing this, and it was, like, basically, it was 1 out of 5 tries when we did get with 2 meteors. People, at least some of the people, had to be playing a bit risky. I would say I was one of the players taking a bit of risk to you know, push in the couple of extra DPS there. It did cause some deaths sometimes, but you know.
Well, I suppose it's when you're really on the
you're only
really
on the edge. Exactly, you're really on the edge.
You just
Right now,
to take a couple of
right
risks.
now, with this gear that we have right now, I think it should be possible without people taking any risks and everyone just playing it safe and no one dying. If no one dies in this phase, I think it's going to be 2 meteor case and no problem.
And is phase 4 more of sort of a trophy phase where it's just some cool RP and things like that, or is it actually genuinely difficult?
It's difficult. It's difficult. Once we get there, I think we're going to be... well, it's a bit of RNG. That's what makes it difficult. You can have
real RNG?
Real RNG. That is real RNG. You can have good luck there, and you can have bad luck. Let's see, we have 20 seconds on the meteor, 3% to go. This should be no problem.
Yep.
Should be no problem. Last engulfs. 1%, 10 seconds, easy, easy.
And now going through to phase 4.
Right now just full DPS still to get the last percent off the boss before he actually goes into the last phase.
Yep.
Right there. Meteors are getting knocked onto the sides.
This is where crazy
Still
happens.
8 minutes to Berserk. Now you're just tanking the boss and people are DPSing, and whilst they are not standing in a frost patch, they get in this superheated stack on them.
Yep.
And that is doing a lot of damage. Now here, people are going into the frost in a sort of a triangle position, so that you don't take superheat, and so that you also want to be able to DPS the boss. At the left leg side of the boss, you can see the dread flames, and that's what the sweepers are doing. You can see at the top right corner, there's a rogue running with Deluge on it, and at the moment it looks all good. These meteors are going to be brought into the frost patch once we see a new one spawning. We see a root spawning very close to the boss. This is a good RNG. People are going to be able to hit the boss once it gets rooted when Empowered Sulphurous is cast now. Basically now Tank needs to run away from needs to take the boss into the trap, and if the Empowered Sulphurous is hit, if Tank gets hit, the whole raid wipes it.
Yeah, that's 500,000 damage to everyone inside the instance.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter where you are, it's all gone.
Yeah. But that was good RNG. People are able to nuke from the Breath of Frost all the time. And that was a meteor exploded straight on the main tank.
That's not
which is
optimal.
just dead. I think we do have combat resist ready.
Certainly hope so.
There's no rest going on right now. There's a Dread Flame spawning right next to the camp. A Boomkin is coming to clear it up. Right now, taking a meteor into the frost patch. But another tank was gibbed by a meteor as well at the same time. This is not ending very well, guys. This is not ending very well.
Yeah, there you go. There's the wipe. And it's still getting to phase 4, but yeah, lack of combat res right there.
I don't know what was going on there. That was just...
It's an interesting phase, to say the least.
Yep. Here you destroy the 2 meteors that you have. Now imagine if you had 4. And then after that you just stand in this frost and sort of how to say, well, you just try to deal with the Empowered Sulphurous, all of the stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
And Dread Flame keeps spawning faster and faster, so the area is going to be covered in flames in the end, so sort of a soft enrage in this phase as well.
Fair enough.
Looks like a full corpse run now, so going to have a little bit of time to...
Yep, a little bit of a dash there. Well, things like that just happen. I mean, it does seem like a very intense fight from pretty much every possible perspective.
I mean, US guilds, once they got here and they were like, oh yeah guys, we're just about to kill the boss, we just got it to 10%. And they didn't even know about the last phase yet.
Bitches don't know about my mass heal, you know.
Yeah.
Like, suddenly I have most of my health back, things start to go a little bit wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it was expected that something would happen, but 50% more HP? Oh my god.
Well, a quick corpse run right back at the moment. So, what do you reckon about the Pandaria expansion that's supposedly coming?
If I'm totally honest, I haven't really been thinking about it. I mean, yeah.
I don't want to think about it, if that's okay by anyone.
Yeah.
Because we don't really know if this is actually the case. There was a leak.
Yep.
There was a trademark of Mists of Pandaria.
Yeah, that's exactly why.
People are thinking that, and I think what annoys me most than anything is that it was a big... I mean, Pandarians were a massive April Fool back before WoW even came in.
Yeah.
And now they've somehow managed to find their way into the game. The first reference, of course, was Chen's Empty Keg, if I remember correctly. That was a really old quest back in the Barrens. I don't know if it's even still there after they changed it around. And that quest was consistently bugged and it never worked properly.
The quest bugged, that's something new.
Oh yeah, we've never seen that before. But whatever the case, this whole Mists of Pandaria thing is a little bit weird. Nobody really knows what it is. There is the possibility that it could, of course, be a series of novels or just some weird animated film, perhaps. But nobody really knows.
When is the World of Warcraft film coming out?
I don't think that's ever coming out.
I mean, see, there's been a lot of talk about it, but I haven't really seen it in the topics.
I'm sorry, if it was World of Warcraft subtitled Mists of Pandaria, I think a lot of people would be very annoyed having waited this long. It's actually an animated animal comedy by Pixar.
Right.
I could see that happening, yes. Oh, Jesus, God, no.
So how do you like Kung Fu Panda, then?
Kung Fu Pandaren, yeah. I can't imagine that joke has never been done before. We'll go for it anyway. But this whole thing is interesting. It's supposedly an international Class 9 trademark, which means it's an international trademark on gaming. It's like that number, that code number 9 only comes next to games, and the class is an active class of trademark that copyrights the name on the basis of computer game software, game discs, and related instruction manuals and guides, which usually indicates, of course, that it is something to do with the actual game itself and not some kind of crazy media. I have to wonder if it's going to be a very light-hearted expansion, though, after the grim dark of this one. Maybe that's what they're aiming for, something a bit more fun to try and drag people back into the game.
If I'm totally honest, I don't really know what to say about this. It's so far ahead, and we don't even really know if it's real, so it's all just speculations this far, and, you know, reading something from the internet is not always true.
No, that's very, very true. Yeah. It's interesting to see that leaked schedule that was released quite a while ago has actually proven to be accurate up until this point.
Yeah.
WoW Brazil, for instance, came out at the right time, and I'm trying to think of the other things, but whatever the case, it's looking like we're going to get a new expansion announcement at some point. I don't think it's going to be BlizzCon this year. I can't remember what the schedule was like, actually. I'd have to look it up.
New expansion should be coming out like next summer.
Next summer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that would be about a year and a half.
Yeah. I mean, if they're gonna implement next con, I mean, Firelands just came out.
Yeah.
Even though we already cleared it, there's gonna be a lot of stuff still incoming, like a new raid content to the Cataclysm.
Yeah, I mean, we'd expect 2 more raid dungeons before Cataclysm finishes, because obviously the next dungeon is most likely not going to be all the way through Deathwing, because that would be absurd.
It might be, though.
If it is, what do you put on after that, though?
After that, there's going to be this, like, sort of hang-around time for where you're finishing arena seasons and you are getting some new dungeon system or whatever.
I can't imagine Blizzard's going to want to do that, though, because I think they've seen over the last couple of expansions that people just unsub at that point. I know, I do. I mean, what's the point of hanging around if there's nothing that you really want to do? And, of course, they don't want to drop that amount of money.
Well, I guess that's true.
Yeah. I'm looking at the schedule right now, in fact. There's WoW Mobile, which was the mobile auction house.
Yeah.
There's then the Cataclysm expansion, which was, of course, timed right. WoW in Brazil, that release. And then it's, I think it's 3 quarters on the expansion pack number 4, which would time it around the time that you're saying. It would be might be a little bit earlier.
Yeah, well, let's say new content's going to come after this expecting it to happen before Christmas.
I'd certainly hope so.
And then next content after that would have to be very close to the summer already.
Yeah, what?
So I don't think they're going to have a content and then give people like 1 month time to play, so only Paragon is going to clear it. And then, you know...
Yeah, I suppose that's the problem. I think the issue is that they leave it for a little bit too long. And of course, expansions can be delayed. And Blizzard Blizzard doesn't care in that regard, and I don't blame them. I think it's good that they do delay things in order to make sure that it's right. The problem I've got is when it's not right, and they delayed it anyway.
Yeah. We have seen this in the past.
It has happened, yeah. What I'm actually interested in is actually got nothing to do with the expansion, is that after the expansion, there's one for marked WoW TCG, and there's some real rumours that they're actually going to implement the trading card game into a online game that you can just play without having to own the cards.
Yeah.
Which is actually really fun. We played the Ice Crown Raid deck.
Right.
Where you've got 4 players, there's three hero characters, and someone is playing the Lich King. Okay. And you have a deck of abilities based on the heroic version of the raid, and you've got 3 guys trying to kill you, and it's actually really fun. It's very, very enjoyable.
I see.
And it would be interesting to see those come in. And if I'm totally honest, I'd probably prefer to play those online than the actual raiding.
If it's good entertainment, maybe even a little bit sporty, you know, sort of.
Well, it has been for a while, hasn't it? You know, it's
well, true.
There's been these competitive events. They still go the Dark Moon Fair. They're still playing these World Championship circuits for this game. It's actually a fairly well balanced card game. It's quite impressive. But that said, there's the other possibility that's going to be implemented in the game in some way, and it's going to be the new Peggle mod, you know, where people are doing nothing but playing the Peggle mod.
Well,
that would be kind of horrible, I think, as long as it... You could just imagine, well, why aren't you focusing the raid? I'm too busy playing the WoW TCG, or...
Yeah.
And then, of course, after that, they actually have a WoW movie in that year. 2012, if this schedule is to be believed.
Yeah, I would actually like to see how they would make it, if I'm totally honest.
Oh, yeah, of course. I think probably everyone in this room would go and try and watch it, myself included, if it actually came out.
Definitely.
I hope it wouldn't be disappointing. I don't think it would be. I think they'll probably spend a lot of time with it. Just my concern is that if they're trying to stick to this schedule, why have we heard nothing about a WoW movie? Because movies, you tend to get a lot of information. You can't keep that stuff under wraps. You just can't. There's too many people on set, there's too many staff, way too easy to leak. Of course, extras, unless the entire thing is animated, which is a possibility.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I really hope not.
Well, we shall see.
It's time to get to the end of Ragnaros again.
Yep.
Sort of to the second intermission phase.
Yep, and then see if you can nail down phase 4. It would be nice. I mean, the progress so far has indicated that you guys have got it on lockdown quite nicely up until phase 4. And then that's where things start to get a little bit hectic. The tank dying, not exactly ideal.
Well, the thing is right now, as long as you get tries where you just get into the last phase with the 2 meteors, the boss is going to die at some point.
Yeah, as long as you keep hammering away at it.
Exactly. Like the problem when we progressed this was that, for example, during one day we only got there like 3-4 times.
Yeah, and of course the length of the fight doesn't help there either.
Well, exactly. It's, I mean, obviously we have only 3 healers, so healers have something to do here. But then when we have already done 300, 400 pulls, and then we start talking, you know, on TeamSpeak with each other about some random irrelevant stuff, and then some healers says, "Guys, shut up! I'm trying to focus here."
Yeah.
You know, it's. I understand they have things to do, but just doing a boss for 20 minutes, then 10-minute corpse run, then same all over again for 10 hours, even starts to get a bit boring.
Well, it does weigh you down, doesn't it? And it's this annoying balance between wanting to try and make it entertaining for the 15th time, because you're doing the same thing over and over again by maybe talking about random stuff, and then realizing this is actually really hard, we need to focus, so we can't do that, but we're not necessarily enjoying ourselves. And I think it's when you do stuff like this on the bleeding edge, like you guys do, you do it for the challenge and for the competitiveness, and that's what gets you through it.
Exactly. Looks like Bloodlust being thrown up. Actually, I've been lying all the time. It's not Bloodlust, it's Time War.
Times. Yeah, thanks Blizz for that.
We don't even have a shaman in the raid. How can we Bloodlust?
How is that possible? Yeah, thanks Blizz for giving our 85 ability. well, giving us an ability that's exactly the same as something that people have already had. And Cartel was all that happy about that.
It's actually quite good because now we don't have to have a shaman in the raid.
Oh, it's nice in that regard. I'd just like to have something new.
Yeah, that's true. They just got quite some stuff though. Ring of Frost.
Ring of Frost is kind of fun. Of course, they keep nerfing that into the ground because it's such a good ability.
Well, yeah, I mean, needless to say, it was really, really powerful though.
Oh yeah, absolutely awesome ability. Really great crowd control, and then they've started to make mobs immune to it for obvious reasons. Great in PvP, so of course
amazing, absolutely amazing.
Incredible, yeah. Okay, so this is your nuke phase, and how would you assess the damage up until this point? Are you?
We have 25 seconds to the next meteor. That's the only meteor we can take. We need to nuke down 12%. It's gonna be... No, actually, no, I'm lying. Never mind. That's gonna be the second meteor spawning.
Yeah.
So, damage is looking great. Absolutely insane, actually.
Yep, laying it down as they should be right here.
That's second meteor spawning right now somewhere, and basically 45 seconds to nuke down 7%.
Not that difficult at all.
Someone must have been doing something insane here.
Yeah, and of course it's difficult to tell because of the way that the damage meter is picking up all the AoE and things like that.
Yeah, of course. It's really, really hard to discuss at this point.
No doubt we'll have a look at it after the fight, look at specific damage.
Well, actually, it's not. It's still getting close. 12%, 2% to go in 15 seconds. I mean, of course, that is easy, but not too much buffer.
Yeah, well, that's Bloodlust dying out, people's cooldowns running out, and things like that. And obviously having to deal with the movement. When the second meteor spawns, your DPS will go down because you're having to move out of the way.
Now it's last phase. Last phase incoming right here. Still the last shots. Someone is saying play it safe.
Surely the best bet. And here we go once again to phase 4. Crazy things happen, and here's hoping for some good RNG for you guys.
Xenofix is sounding very worried from what I can hear.
Well, it is an incredibly difficult fight. Can hardly blame her.
Yep. Here we have 6 people marked. What? There was a meteor exploding? No, there wasn't. I just saw it wrong. Yeah, we have 6 people marked, and those 6 people take the full responsibility of standing in the correct spot in the Breath of Frost.
Okay.
And other people are just standing on top of them. Melee has the skull position, and ranged has the 2 others. And now it's just burn. The Dread Flame spawning right next to it. The meteor awfully close to the frost patch.
That was very close.
That was very close. You're supposed to kite it away in a circle, as what Kruf just did. Perfect job. Very, very good. We have a sweeper coming in and just taking all of it. Meteors are coming really close now, guys. What are you doing?
They are pushing that one very, very fine indeed. Got to watch it. Oh, he's going. Oh, very, very close. Almost got backed into a corner right there.
Yeah. They are taking a meteor soonish, I think. What actually happened there? Meteor, yeah, meteor exploded, but they're still going for a kill. One of the healers is dead.
That makes it difficult. Tanks get pounded.
If they manage this and get into a new frost, I think it could be possible, but no, just too much damage.
That's just a cataclysmic wipe after that.
I mean,
everything falls apart after that.
3 healers, 1 healer dies is a really big thing here in the last phase. It's just not so easy. I don't know what happened there. Someone failed with a meteor, of course, because people died from meteor impact.
Yeah.
You can see from the fatality add-on. Then after that, because people moved off the frost patch, people started dying from superheated stacks.
Yep, well, at least you guys can get back on it fairly quickly. That means we need a new discussion topic for the next 15 minutes, I think. Visit MMO Champion.
Maybe the audience would have some questions.
That's probably a good idea, actually. I'm trying to think of the best way to do that. They're raiders, they don't do breaks. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the best way to do that. We don't have a particularly long mic lead, otherwise I'd go out in the audience. Of course, they can just yell, but the Finnish are pretty good at that.
Well, I think that should work.
Yep, sounds sensible. So we're gonna go to audience
Or maybe
questions
they
then
can just
while
come
sorting this
closer.
out.